So I have Larry Goldberg back today. Larry took his time and really went deep, deep, deep into the Isaacson biography of Elon Musk. And he is ready to report. He says he has new stuff. He has found nuggets. And I'm sure that's true. I have no idea. This will be fun because I don't have a clue what Larry has uncovered. Larry, glad to have you on.
Thanks, Randy. So, can you share my screen?
I can share your screen. I'll probably do it badly, but I'll do it. Let's see here. There you go.
So, everybody I'm sure has got themselves their copy of the book. I did get a signed copy.
Oh, there you go.
Good old Walter. I mean, shout out to that guy. He's made himself so available to the community. It's quite amazing. Here's the signature. I hope you'll
there you go.
But I mean, a shout out to him. He's really made himself available. If you haven't been on a space with him yet, check it out. He's on spaces almost every week with one or other of us. He's really made himself available. He's extremely approachable, very friendly. I've had several conversations with him in several spaces. And he's written a book which is extremely approachable. It's written in a very easy style, chatty style, actually, which is kind of quite similar to his other books. His other books are also approachable, none quite as approachable as this one. I think, whether he likes it or not, I think he did get close to his subject.
Became a friend.
Yeah, I'm not sure anybody can be, truly a friend of Elon's. I think Elon has, even with his closest friends, even with his brother for that matter, a certain reserve that, ends at some level of boundary. I don't know what it is, but clearly there are, in his background, in his past, in his makeup, this detachment that makes, friendship almost transactional.
Yeah.
So we're better off or worse. That's just the way he is. And I don't think I've got anything massively new to talk about, but I think it's worthwhile talking about what we learn from the book.
Okay.
And in a strange way, we learn what we know about him, because he's an open book.
Yeah. Transparent as heck.
Yeah. So when I say we learn what we know about him, I don't think there's any surprise for anyone reading this book who have followed Elon for any period of time. I think every one of us who follow Elon have got part of us that say, oh, I wish he wouldn't do that, or I wish he didn't say that, or I wish he were more like this. I think for those of us who remain, committed to his various enterprises and to him as a person, I think we all say, well, we do wish he didn't do that, but he does, and we accept it.
I've found that there's almost every human being I've ever met I could say that about, except my mother, of course. She's perfect in every way.
Yeah, no, I accept that. I think with Elon, though, he's so much larger than life.
Yes, this is true.
That the sentiments go much further, or have to go much further, in order to have that relationship with him, whether it's a direct relationship or an observational relationship. So there's very little doubt, to me anyway, that there is this duality in relationship with him, and it's not unusual in in that he is himself somewhat of a duality. There are some lovable parts, aspects to him, and there's others not so lovable parts. The areas that you violently agree with him, and there are areas where you may violently disagree with him. I think all of that's fine. I think we do have lessons to learn from him. I know we talked about earlier today, we talked about the economy and Kathy's view on the economy. One can have two simultaneously different views on the same thing.
Right.
But there's no doubt that if you read the book, the one thing that is consistent throughout the book, end to end, is this notion of the algorithm.
Okay.
And there's this lesson to be learned, there's this lesson to be taken away from every one of us in this algorithm. Whoever's created a product, whoever's run a project, whoever's actually managed a company, whoever's owned a company, whoever started a company, they need to learn this algorithm. They need to learn the algorithm not so much off by heart, but by its intentions and its underlying theses.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes, it does.
So I think it's worthwhile having this written down, take notes, apply it, or even if you don't apply it, think about what is underlying the points of the algorithm. So Walter boils the algorithm down to this, and I'm going to share my screen if you've allowed me to. Really, he boils it down to 5 simple points, and he does repeat this quite lavishly throughout the book. He returns to this notion of the algorithm to actually to contextualize Elon's actions in different scenarios, in different scenes of the book, particularly where Elon is, as he often does, reaming somebody out who hasn't really, complied with the algorithm. But he also talks about the algorithm at length when he talks about the different businesses that Elon has started, and particularly when it applies to Tesla or SpaceX, or really any of the businesses. And he starts, the number one is question every requirement. So for Elon, what drives the business, what drives the enterprise is the product. Everything is around the product or products. And so for him, he's not talking about starting a enterprise. He's thinking about building a product. And we see that in his acquisition of Twitter. We see that in SpaceX. We see that in Tesla, really. It's all around and focused on delivering the product. The rest, as long as he's not spending any money on anything, will take care of itself.
And I think you could go one step further, which has always been certainly my position on this. And I think I'm almost 100% sure that Elon would say the same thing. The product is really a function of solving a need. And so you've got the product itself, and the company is built on the product. But ultimately, if the product is the result of solving a need. And so Elon sees the need. He sees usually a big need, something that really needs a large solution, a significant change in the way things are done. And then he comes up with the product that can accomplish that result.
Yeah, I would just add to that. I think now we're getting back to, his motivation.
Right.
I think when you think about starting a product and you talk about a need, typically you're defining a market where somebody needs something to solve a particular problem for that person. I think Elon is working at a higher plane than that. I think he's thinking about what does humanity need? What is good for the planet? I'm not sure he started out that way when he started his first company, or even necessarily his second company. I think that's definitely what he has aspired to since then. And maybe even, growing up, because, he famously said to his first date, a date on his first date, he said to his date, I think about electric cars, do you? Or do you think about electric cars? I do. But yes, so, once you've decided what is your goal, whether it's, a product you're going to make that you think people are going to adopt, or you think there's a need, you start by questioning every requirement. So I think, the point about questioning every requirement is simply the issue of cost. What is this thing? What should this thing cost? What should we be delivering it for? And, I want to tell you that if you look at my career in the software world, that's probably my biggest single error of all, is that I allowed requirements, I even generated requirements that were completely surplus to the delivery of the first product, or could have been surplus. I don't know of a single product that I've ever seen come out to the market that doesn't have that limit to its requirements. And he says that each requirement should come with the name of the person who made it. You should never accept a requirement that came from a department, such as the legal department or the safety department. You need to know the real person that made that requirement. And he comes back to this again and again in the book. Walter sat through many meetings and he watched Elon just drill down, repeat, and just drive to this absolute, where did that come from? Why are we doing this? This costs money. Why should we do this?
Yeah.
So, and requirements from smart people, he says, are the most dangerous.
Yeah, right.
Because people are not going to question them. Always do so, even if the requirement comes from, in this case, he said, for him. Then make the requirements less dumb. And, it's really sage advice. And, so few of us actually are capable of questioning them to the level that he actually is able to and does.
It kind of reminds me of two things. One is the famous Ronald Reagan quote, although it should be more famous than it is, of "They never take out a stop sign, do they?" You get these requirements in the world, wherever you are, things are done. Procedures and processes and requirements and laws and rules are put in place, and they're never considered again. And then that reminds me of a famous methodology in running a business, which I think should have been getting way more attention and might get more attention now that Ramaswamy is a big deal in the Republican race, and this idea of zero-based budgeting. So it kind of reminds me of that concept of going back and saying, throw the entire budget out, and let's go back and look at every single line item and see if those line items are required. So a couple of thoughts with regard to this first one.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. But the rigor that Elon applies to this is incredible. He will do it on every single component in that rocket or in that car or in that whatever. Every single component. It's incredible.
Yes.
And then he says, delete any part of process that you can. You can add them back later. In fact, if you don't end up adding back 10% of them, then you didn't delete enough.
I like this one a lot.
But it's so difficult to do.
Oh, yeah.
Randy, it's very, very difficult to do. I know. I've tried. And failed. And then he says, simplify and optimize. This should come after step 2. A common mistake is simplify and optimize a process that should not exist. And he admits to having done that himself.
Yes.
And so, it's one thing to say, well, this process is taking too long. Let's find a way to reduce it. What he's really saying is question the process. Why do you need it?
At all. Yes.
And then he says, accelerate cycle time. Then once you've actually got it, start speeding it up. Don't start speeding it up until you've done 1, 2, and 3, because you may be speeding up something where it contains components that you shouldn't contain and processes that it shouldn't have, or processes that haven't been simplified sufficiently.
Yes, my son, I think, says this very well. He's got a famous saying. He says, I'm always rushing on the freeways. I'm always going 10 miles over the speed limit, 20 miles over the speed limit. He says, but so often I find out I was going the wrong direction. I'd made an error in that direction. So I'm speeding off into the wrong direction. so you want to get way more of those widgets. Unfortunately, every one of them's got a crack. This is not good.
And he says, automate that comes last. And I think, this can be applied to processes as much as it can be applied to manufacturing.
Yes.
I think the one word that's most used in the whole book is this word delete. I don't know how many times Walter repeats it, but it's a lot. I know that I listened to the book, didn't read it. I listened to the book first, and I listened to it traveling, on this long journey of mine across the States and back. And I don't know how many times I heard delete, delete, delete. So when I was asked what my impression of the book was, I said, delete, delete, delete. Because that was, what I heard again and again and again. So, and then, he's got several follow-ups to this, and all technical managers must have hands-on experience. I think this is one of the biggest failings of corporate America. They hire managers to manage.
Who have never done the job. Absolutely. I said this of myself in my companies. I don't know if you did. I knew how to ship and receive. I knew how to, I didn't know how to turn on the machines, Larry. Quite frankly, I didn't even know where the on-off button was. But I think I could have sat there and watched the machine run and made sure that it didn't make mistakes.
Yeah, every language we used, every code methodology we adopted, I did that at home or in my private time, in my alone time, to get to a point where I could feel that I was expert. And only then, was I able to invent some of the methods and some of the capabilities that made our business. And certainly, the book we wrote was not as a result of theorizing. It was a result of actual practice. Now, we had to do a lot of theory, and actually, to be honest, my partner was the theorist in the team. I was the one who'd actually done the work and experienced it. And while I was able to imbibe a lot of the theories from her, my practical experience led to some of the true breakthrough moments in what we did.
Yes. And again, I'm reminded of a book from many, many years ago. People haven't read this book. It is still completely correct. The Peter Principle. And the thing that I grabbed out of the Peter Principle that totally infected my management approaches was management by walking around, MBWA. And going out and being on the line, watching the line, actually participating in the line. For somebody like Mary Barra, I doubt if she has been out there putting a wheel on a car ever.
Oh, but she's been to the White House.
But she's been to the White House. But I'm just saying, executives don't want to get their hands dirty, and you get out there and you get on that line. And I was out there many a night putting caps on bottles and helping package things. And you learn while you're out there. You're learning. Oh my gosh, what are they doing? How can I? No, we can do that better. It's just anyway. Yeah, MBWA.
And then he says something which doesn't sit well with, modern young people in business today. Camaraderie is dangerous. It makes it hard for people to challenge each other's work. There's a tendency to not want to throw a colleague under the bus. That needs to be avoided. That's a tough one.
It's a tough one. Yeah, it's tough to avoid it.
Yeah. I think it's dangerous, but it's not exclusion. It's not an exclusion. I think you can be a comrade, but I think you can be brutally honest. I think that's what the military teaches young people to do.
Yes.
I think you can watch somebody else's back, but you can also criticize them for putting you into danger.
Right.
And it's okay to be wrong, just don't be confident and wrong. That's a lesson I never learned. I am always very, very confident.
So it's okay to be wrong. I think should be at the top of the list. I think it should be number one. I think it's Elon's one of his strongest. I know I'm always saying something that he does is strong, but his idea that he needs that feedback loop is something I spent a lot of time on the method. I spent a chapter talking about this whole idea. The ability to be able to hear it from your peers, to be able to hear it from your partner, to be able to hear it from the line that you are incorrect, and not to be defensive and upset about it, and to be able to really actually, I think Elon's ability to do that and what happens on X in terms of the feedback loop that he gets is invaluable. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think one of the problems that Elon has is, his shortness of temper, because in meetings, he'll shut people up and shut people down, actually. And I think that it's okay to be wrong, don't be confident and wrong, but also don't intimidate those who report to you. I think it's okay to challenge, but it's not okay to intimidate, because you're not going to get their best.
We had a rule in all of our meetings. It's a brainstorming rule, which is there are no dumb ideas, and you want people to be able to put the dumb idea on the table, because sometimes out of the dumbest idea you've ever seen comes the most brilliant new direction that you can take.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay to be wrong, just don't be confident and wrong. So if you don't know the answer that Elon is looking for, if you didn't do something that Elon expects to be done, it's not okay for Elon to blow up.
Yes.
And fire the person summarily, because what does it do? It shuts people down.
Right.
Makes it very difficult. He gets his way, and maybe he's been, phenomenally successful as a result, but it's still not okay.
Yeah.
So if he says it's okay to be wrong, just to be confident and wrong, but it's also important that if somebody's wrong, to help them see why they're wrong and to understand what the error is.
Right.
And then he says, never ask your troops to do something you're not willing to do. Clearly, I think there's a corollary to that is don't expect the troops to all do what you are prepared to do for your own money.
That's true. I hadn't thought of that corollary. That's a good one.
And then he says, whenever there are problems to solve, don't just meet with your managers. Do a skip level where you may meet with a level right below your managers. I actually like doing multiple skip levels. I don't see authority in meetings. I like to have everybody involved in the project participate. If I've got a team of 10 people doing a software development and there are problems, I actually want all 10 people in the room.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because often it's not even a skip level. It's a team judgment that occurs. Anyway, but the point is, don't meet with the managers, do a skip level. When hiring, look for people with the right attitude. That kind of goes without saying. Attitude changes require a brain transplant. A maniacal sense of urgency is our operating principle. Again, there's shades of gray there. Sometimes a maniacal sense of urgency can also drive the bus off the cliff,
But I think you're right. Shades of gray. I have always stressed, and again, in the Elon Musk method, I spend a whole chapter on urgency. I think one of the biggest problems I had with managers or with employees was not having a sense of urgency at all. And so trying to instill in people a sense of urgency, at least, I think would be my version of this.
Yeah. He says the only rules are the ones dictated by the laws of physics. Actually, he says in his algorithm that the only requirements are the ones dictated by the laws of physics. Everything else is a recommendation. So that's a nice statement. And problem is in this modern world, there are so many rules that are imposed upon us by government that it's very difficult, to say that they can't be observed. So, I want a little bit of shades of gray and all that. But having said that, and I know we're here to talk about the book, I just thought these were valuable enough to actually focus on. And as far as the book is concerned, it's an amazing book. If you love Elon, hate Elon, or have, an interest in what he does, doubts about him, either way, I think it's worth the read. Now, it'll probably reinforce your biases because the book is simply, a recording, a history of it. But it will give you the full history of it. So you'll walk away with a much more comprehensive knowledge.
Yeah.
And that's what I have for you.
Yeah, I think the only thing I thought, Larry, maybe you'll have a thought on my thought. The thing that I was most disappointed in the book was I thought that it spent way too much time psychoanalyzing Elon. In our modern world, it is something of a, to be proud of, that you have some kind of an emotional illness, that you have some kind of neuroses or psychoses. You need to be, oh yes, I'm almost ADHD. Oh yes, I have this. Anyway, so we're so involved in, the number one major in America is psychology. I think number two might be, I don't think sociology is number two, but
I think the number one major in the United States today is administrator in a college or school. I think there are more administrators than there are teachers, and certainly there are almost as many administrators as there are pupils. Well, that's an exaggeration.
Okay.
Anyway,
in any case, I thought that the constant, Elon has got this mental illness and he's got this emotional problem, and it just, I got tired of it. But other than that, I like the book a lot.
I didn't. I mean, yeah, he does comment on that a lot, but he's an unusual creature, Elon.
He is.
I admire the man immensely, but I'm biased, strongly biased.
Strongly biased, and I know I'm not a fanboy. So, Larry,
not much.
so you are correct again that you did bring a different version of the analysis of the book than I've seen by others. So thank you so much for coming on and showing all that. I would be remiss if I didn't say that if anybody liked what you just heard in terms of the analysis of Elon Musk or of the analysis of the book, the Elon Musk method was written exactly to talk about these same issues, but I come at it from a slightly different angle, talk about some different aspects of Elon that are superpowers, and you might want to check it out. You can even get a free one if you join Patreon. Larry, thanks for coming on. As always, we look forward to a great week ahead as the CPI and the PPI and the beginnings of the bank earnings reporting should make for an interesting week.
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Take care, Andy.
All right, bye now. And to all of you out there, it has been great talking to you. If you don't mind, I do want to pitch my little device here. I have these little devices for $25. You can't believe how cool this is. Look at how thick the stainless. I mean, holy mackerel! It comes in. It comes in a camo as well. It's a can opener. I mean, I'm sorry, not a can opener, a bottle opener. So you got your bottle opener here too, and it's got a magnet on the back, so you can slap it up on your fridge. I mean, is this good or what? So anyway, you just send $25 to my PayPal account. It's down in the information below. Just click on there. You can send it 20. Now, if you're out of the country, I got to charge you an extra $20 for freight. So, or if you join my Patreon, I'll give you one at the $10 level. I'll give you one for free.
Click the link below to get your paperback, Kindle, or audiobook now.